This is what Spartanburg Regional nurses are calling the battlefield, the COVID ICU. This is where they've seen a lot of death and tell us, for the most part, they're past their breaking point.
I need some help down here, please.
At the end of this hall is Nurse Kristen Askew. We were just beginning our conversation with her about what working in the thick of a pandemic has been like when
Yes.
a sprint to save a life for what has become a never-ending marathon for the nurses in the COVID ward here at Spartanburg Medical Center. Day after day after day.
It's so hard when there's just so much death around you.
You kind of wake up with this looming feeling that you're going to come into a pretty rough time.
Intensive care unit really means intensive care because it's nonstop.
Dominique Belgrave leads the COVID ICU. She has some qualifications that you might think would better prepare her for all of this tragedy.
I've done hospice in my career and I have not seen this much death in hospice.
But none of that compares to what she sees walking along this hallway and stepping into these rooms. Right now, we're talking to her alongside her colleague in the only open room in the COVID ICU. They tell us they expect it to be filled within the next hour. It's all part of what they call the cold reality of the COVID ward.
So it's like you pass away, you want to connect with that family. Oh, we need that bed because another patient's coming into it.
Not even a second to mourn. And it's not just the death they have to see every single day. It's all hands on deck here. Nurses like Takesha Foster work dozens of hours a week, and even when she leaves the walls of the hospital, it's shroud she can't shake.
And what people don't realize is our staff, they're working 60 hours a week, no breaks. They don't even want to be off because they want to follow the care of the patients
Yeah.
to make sure they're, if they leave and they hear the patient has passed away, I should have been at work.
Up a couple floors is Pavilion 6, or what nurse Amy Brown calls COVID Central. All of their rooms right now are full of COVID patients, ones that she says sometimes have to stay there for a long time.
It's like having your own family member either pass away or have to go down to the unit and be put on a ventilator.
Other than being exhausted,
It sucks all your energy out of you. It sucks all your emotion out of you.
she's drained and frustrated.
There was something out there that could have prevented this, and we're going through it, and it's worse.
But before the doors to her floor close, we saw this. The nurses in this COVID battle tell us they always support each other.
God has a reason for what we are going through, and he picked his toughest soldiers for his hardest battles, and that's us.
It's what keeps them going every single day because there's always another life to save.
Amelia, we need you to come out with your hands up. If you are injured in any way, you can call us. Call 911 and let us know that you are hurt.
A day of chaos
It was really unreal. I thought I was somewhere in a big city. I was in a war zone.
and fear near Cleveland Park in Spartanburg.
A slight pause and then more gunshots went off. Like the police were shooting in or they were shooting at each other or whatever. It was really crazy.
Ken Henninger lives a couple houses down from where the shots rang out. He just sat down for lunch when
I heard all the other gunshots. He ran into the back bedroom because we didn't know what was going on. It just sounded like a barrage out here.
Mateo Lopez works right by where everything happened. He says luckily he wasn't there when the shots were fired, but his coworkers were.
They heard maybe, in between 30 minutes, half an hour, they heard multiple shots going off, which was a very scary situation.
It wasn't just a day of firsts for a lot of neighbors, but also a rare situation for law enforcement.
When was the last time any of your departments responded to a shooting with this many people involved? 3 people that we know so far.
It's been a long, long time, if ever.
And while there's still a lot of unanswered questions about what unfolded,
I'd really like to answer a lot more of your questions, but I don't know any more that we can answer.
people living close by tell us they're happy it's over.
I thought the 4th of July had already got here. It was that bad and that loud.
Love and hope is now radiating from a place with a history of darkness. Transforming this building that used to be a Ku Klux Klan museum and a meeting point for neo-Nazis has been years in the making. But the man behind it all says they finally have the resources to get started. A shining example of a quote Reverend David Kennedy lives by very closely.
Light
dispels the darkness.
This place has seen a lot of that. Reverend Kennedy first knew it as a segregated theater.
We were not allowed to go downstairs, and if anybody tried to, they would be beaten.
And then the Redneck Shop, which included a KKK museum and a meeting spot for white supremacists and neo-Nazis. But Reverend Kennedy has been working tirelessly to erase the hate, like the swastikas covering the walls, not only from the Echo Theater,
My great-uncle, he was lynched here.
but also the city.
Now that we're able to sort of close the book on that and have it be something that encourages unity in the community, that's something I think everybody in Lawrence should be happy about.
Kennedy took over the building years ago and has been on a mission to turn it into a center for diversity ever since. However, the funds to get started weren't always there until now.
Things really started popping off, I guess, about a year ago in June. You know, there was a larger conversation in America about racial injustice and how to fight that. We've raised a good amount of money and we have a lot more to go, but this is a wonderful first step.
And while lighting up the marquee is a start, Kennedy says there's still a long ways to go.
These people are so full of hatred.
However, for now, a blemish once plaguing a South Carolina town.
But you can't fight with hatred in your heart.
Now the start of a beaming example of Reverend Kennedy's mission of light and love.
Hallelujah, man.
Reverend Kennedy says they're hoping to have those discussions of inclusion and diversity within those walls by the end of 2022. In Lawrence, Melanie Palmer, 7 News. A fresh start for Courtney Lyles at her own fitness facility, the one she was previously at, the site of a scarring crime.
Kind of get warmed up.
A glimpse of Courtney Lyles in her element.
Then you got 25.
I love it, and I love seeing other people transform.
She's a personal trainer. And now, proud owner of Fit and Curvy by Caramel in Spartanburg.
This is my personal favorite.
But to get where she is today hasn't always been easy. She was one of a handful of women who were sexually assaulted on New Year's Day in the Cedar Springs community of Spartanburg. She was working at a gym in that area when it all happened.
He caught the gun back, and I immediately said, boy, nobody got no money.
Lyles says she and her client were the only ones in the building when the man came in and told them to go to the back.
I almost knew instantly what was getting ready to happen because this is a young boy. He didn't have any fear, seemed like it didn't matter how much I tried to convince him.
And then she tells us they were sexually assaulted. Lyles says since then, in addition to therapy,
and you can twist.
She found something therapeutic of her own to focus on.
I couldn't allow being raped to determine this career that I built for myself.
She started her own personal training in the comfort of her home. From there, she says it has grown into something much more.
I didn't have any carpet, I didn't have any ceiling tiles, I didn't have anything.
Not only moving into this space, but also taking the training to a virtual platform.
Yeah, are you ready?
And even though Lyles says recovery hasn't always been easy, she's focused on helping others overcome their own personal obstacles.
It was the worst thing that could have ever happened to me, ever, that I could have ever imagined, but all of this flourished from it.
The facility has been open for a while now, and Lyles tells us she hopes to expand it in the future. In Spartanburg, Melanie Palmer, 7 News.